we have with us Ayappa Muthana. He is a senior solutions engineer Epicor. Welcome, Ayappa.
Thank you. Thank you,
We
Ashish.
have Karthik Krishnamurthy, the COO Mahindra Aerospace. Welcome, Karthik.
Thank you.
And last, we have Yashwant SM, he is product lead Agnikul Cosmos. Welcome,
Uh,
Yashwant.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite.
Okay, now we start, gentlemen, with some of the questions that we have around this topic of ERP. As I mentioned in my welcome note, there are many things, including what we will discuss is apart from the geopolitical things, we will also take into account and analyze about small and micro businesses. Then there are policies involved, of course, how we can become compliant in terms of using ERP. My first question comes to Ayappa, since you are someone who has seen the in and out of the industry very closely. Ayappa, like I mentioned in my intro, like ERP is no longer merely a packing tool, since it is emerging as a secret sauce that what I use, secret sauce for achieving operational excellence. I want to understand you from you why ERP is so critical for India's aerospace and defense sector, and what also I want to know for my viewers is what exactly does it solve?
Okay. Thanks, Ashish. So, rightly said, ERP is becoming a key platform in achieving operational excellence, not just in aerospace and defense, but across all industries. So, ERP, along with a combination of other supporting applications, when I say other supporting applications, it may be MES or BI or AI, all these things can complement with ERP to achieve those operational excellence in the industry. To give you the relevance of engineering or product engineering, I was at the recently concluded Aero India show. The idea here is that there are a lot of components and assemblies which go into these aircrafts, which makes it to achieve those level of efficiency or level of speed and agility. So it may be like avionics, radar, sensors, weapon systems, a lot of composite materials and things like that. So all these components or sub-assemblies which goes into these fighters or any components sub-assemblies within aerospace requires high precision, requires stringent quality control as well as compliance around the product quality and things like that. So doing this without a proper tool in place or a proper software in place becomes extremely challenging because you need to um, uh, gather a lot of information on the quality parameters, capture those informations, and also compliance. As I said, there's a lot of documents involved, a lot of retrieval of documents is necessary. So there, ERP plays a critical role in, for example, just to take a use case, demand forecasting. So ERPs will help in demand forecasting based on maybe past trends or based on past sales, seasonality, and things like that, so that the manufacturer can rely on certain tools within ERP with AI capability to analyze this demand trends or forecast those demands accordingly and produce those sub-assemblies or components on a timely manner or source those things on a timely manner.
I guess Ayappa, you wonderfully explained it how India has come over the years from the past to the present, and even it's even explored the idea of supply chain, how it has transformed. Or Karthik, coming to you, same question. Criticality of ERP in India's aerospace and defense sector.
Thank you to the team for including me in this process. I think Ayappa did a fantastic job of explaining all the different areas where an ERP tool helps us in the industry. As a user, I can add a few more perspectives just to complement what Ayappa already explained. So, like you all know, the supply chain in our industry has a very long lead time compared to almost everything else in the manufacturing space. We have materials with 1 year lead times, some of them, and we have delivery commitments with persons and places across the globe, sometimes by sea, sometimes by air. So the complexity of even daily transactions, the complexity becomes multifold. Add to that, the demand forecast is not stable. Anything beyond 3 months is more and more fluctuation, more and more variability. You actually have a very complex parameter list. You have to worry about a 1 year lead time from ordering material to getting it sometimes. 6 months of delivery lead time, including the manufacturing lead time, the Incoterms, the logistics, and everything is changing in our VUCA world. For a human being to keep up on top of it is possible if it's maybe 10 lines in, 10 lines out, 50 lines in, 50 lines out. But when you start adding more and more variety and more demand into the picture, it exponentially becomes impossible for human mind, even with computer aided tools, even basic Excel, impossible to manage with any level of accuracy. So an ERP system, a good ERP systems becomes the most critical thread to say that if this is changing here, this is the impact here. So that's a very fundamental experience from our side of past 10 years of operations with an ERP system. The other thing I would add to what Ayappa explained is core requirements of our aerospace and defense industry. Traceability. The usual story is at any point in time for any airplane, we should be able to say this bolt came from this plant, attached to this plant, came from this supplier of the bolt, came from this manufacturer of the bolt, came from this mill, came from this mine. The guy who dug the mine and pulled the ore out was X. So the
Air
traceability,
transport accessibility.
yeah, so the traceability goes all the way down to the hole in the ground. That's the usual
Yeah.
statement. The second part of the traceability requirement is somebody is taking the responsibility at each checkpoint.
Mhm.
But I pull the whole ore out of the ground and I'm qualified to say, yeah, it is bauxite and not mud. And so on all the way to the delivery and the final end user, which means traceability on demand for every item. Good luck trying to do that with a human system in this day and age. Not happening.
Mhm.
So ERP lets us to break that coconut as well. We can continue. We can continue talking about other topics as we move along.
In case if you have some case study to share with us, with our viewers, where this practice played out so beautifully well, you can explain, please.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And that's a wonderful question. Do I have about 2 months to explain it? I'm just, I'm just joking. It's a complex question. Is really my point.
Yeah, I know.
I
I can
can't answer.
understand.
Yeah. So let me break it into two parts. The first part of the question is about inventory mismanagement.
Mhm.
I'll give you a case study, but I can't name any names,
Mhm.
and it's part of the industry, right?
Mhm.
So some of the equipment that we supply metallic parts and assemblies. So the material for this is ordered, like I said, with the delivery lead time of the material into account. We have to order it well before the customer actually gives me a PO.
Mhm.
So I am ordering material based on a forecast of variable accuracy. The accuracy of the forecast gets worse the further away I am from the end use date, right? Which means that if I am doing it based on pure faith, I'll be ordering material today for a planned delivery in, say, November. I haven't got a PO in hand,
Mhm.
and I need to know with what confidence and how much quantity to really order. Again, going back to my previous example, if I'm doing it by hand for a few lines with some experience, with some 3 years of experience behind us, we can do a reasonable job. But once you start to scale, and scale is critical to become profitable, once you start to scale, this rapidly becomes impossible to do manually. I'll go 2 levels deeper if it's okay with you guys. I'm just talking about material management right now. But ultimately, that material is going to get delivered to me with some logistics delays or logistics variability. I will have to invert it to our stores after we have got an incoming inspection, potential for a quality problem. Once it's come into my stores, I will issue the work order and start converting that metal to finished goods, which is not an overnight affair. It can take days, it can take weeks, depending on the process complexity. You now see at least 3 levels of potential change. I could have an incoming material delay that I have to replan. I have a work in progress delay which I have to replan. And I have a quality gate when I don't know if I'm going to pass. The ability to replan in this situation is so critical. To do that without losing my traceability, to do that without losing my control on approved sources, to do that without losing the controls all along the way becomes it's a very vicious cycle if I don't get it right. If I don't get it right, inventory mismanagement is the most obvious result.
Mhm.
I've got a pile of converted metal that's useless. I've lost the time of sourcing the material, which is a resource mismanagement. At
Mhm.
some cost, I'll have to fight with A and B and C to get some of it back. And I'm just talking about one example. And this has happened to us. This is not a made up story. It is easy if you start planning on faith that you will end up in a deep hole of inventory, which is not of any use to anybody. It's a scrap. The ERP system, provided we have structured it right, and that's a big if, you can't just take it off the shelf. Once you got the ERP system working, it can help you to address these in a much more logical, controlled, and time efficient manner. And so that's going back to the heart of how to avoid inventory mismanagement. Coming back to the top, I said I will go deep. Coming back up for
Mhm.
air. Reporting and inventory level. When I've in our system, in our company, we have more than almost 2,000 BOM items, and then there's FG and WIP, and then there's SFG of stuff I buy from other suppliers. Inventory reporting will be an army of people if it was not for an ERP system.
Mhm.
For the ERP system to be working, I have to make sure anything that's coming into the building is tagged. And so we have a system, we have applied it this way. Anything and everything that's coming into the system gets tagged with a QR code. Bing, with a QR code, an automated ERP report every morning or twice a day or whatever I want, and a Power BI front end, life is beautiful. On demand or on a schedule, we can see exactly what's happening, what's aging, what's not moving, what's red, what's yellow, what's green. It's possible to see it on demand anytime, anywhere.
You heard Ayappa mentioning how the things have changed over the years in terms of ERP. What's your take on these things?
Giving a fresh perspective
Mhm.
from aerospace, like a young and then innovative organization like a Sabnicol who's building rockets. So what I specifically believe is ERP is a tool which bridges the people and the processes. So which has to be equally managed and equally emphasized. So when it comes to inventory mismanagement, like like Karthik mentioned about the traceability of the components being sourced from being sourced to and being used to whatever product level or whatever component level has to be listed down. So it starts from the way that it gets get inside a facility, how it's stored, and to what category it is stored. Maybe not every component should be stored in a specific inventory place. So there are few hazardous materials which could have or which could be categorized into a separate place where it has to be stored. And coming into the other part of quality checks which has to frequently happen, which also brings in the compliance of aerospace standards, where the frequent and then more iterative quality checks and quality audits have to happen between what is the state of the inventory elements or inventory components that we currently have. Tracking it, when was it disposed, what amount was disposed, who disposed it, also matters a lot.
You make a point here that, like what Karthik beautifully explained about the traceability concept, there's a transparency. There should be a transparency, and ERP provides the transparency. Even when we are talking about electronic waste disposal, at least we both can reach to a consensus that ERP definitely gives manufacturers an edge. But still, in terms of SMEs, there are challenges in terms of ERP adoption. I want to understand from you, Ata, what are key barriers to ERP adoption, especially for SMEs? How do you think this can be addressed?
Okay, so definitely we heard Karthik as well as Ashwant speaking about the benefits of ERP. First thing is you have to embrace it. So when you start embracing it, it becomes a part of your day-to-day activities. So definitely there are challenges these days, be it with respect to infrastructure for an ERP, like hosting an ERP or cost and things like that. So we as a company have a lot of solutions we offer with regards to this. Like we have a cloud-ready ERP where the entire scalability, flexibility, and cost effectiveness can be managed using the cloud. ERP, and the users or the manufacturers can manage the entire ERP system from anywhere. They can improve collaboration, reduce IT infrastructure costs, as I was mentioning. So it becomes easy for the SMEs to adopt it. And then again, it's a SaaS based base. You pay as you use, and at any point in time, if you feel it is a burden, you can always um, stop the licensing or stop the services. So that is one advantage. Also, definitely there is possibility of having an infrastructure based setup also, which we call as an on-prem, because aerospace and defense industry has a lot of compliance with respect to data storage and things like that. So it's up to the end user or manufacturer to choose what kind of deployment they want. But given the fact that it is available on SaaS or on cloud, we also offer the data centers within India for storing their data as a compliance it is required. So they can also go for the SaaS with local data centers. And then as we move on, like the other challenges of Industry 4.0 integration, that is very much critical. So what these days ERPs has the capability to integrate with multiple applications, be it the edge computing devices, which gather a lot of information from the shop floor, maybe the production rate or the quality trends with respect to SPC, what we call statistical process quality, or maybe the downtime trends and things like that. These data can be pulled in from the various equipments or shop floors, and it can be integrated with ERP systems to give a contextual information to the manufacturer, saying that what is happening with respect to their product, whether a particular product mix is being run efficiently on a particular line or a particular mission, or be it with respect to energy consumption and things like that. So all these are certain tools which complements ERP, and it also gives those insights to the manufacturers to quickly take those decisions with respect to their business metrics.
Yashwant, you heard what Ayappa mentioned about the ERP adoption when we talk about SMEs. Your two cents, any take you have on this topic?
So when we speak about ERP is like one single roof which has multiple businesses inside it. It is like a module built for multiple businesses running its operation, integrated to a single cost, right? So one part of it where it's resource allocation, few SMEs could even after onboarding, or even if after subscribing to a ERP solution, it could really be hard for one such SMEs to adopt it. The reason being, not every resource that they are handling, those who will be using the application are not tech enthusiasts. So there comes another major barrier in adoption.
Karthik, I'd like to come to you now. As we all know about the aerospace and defense sector, the kind of stringent domestic and global regulatory frameworks that he has to follow. With respect to that, I want to ask you, how does ERP help automate regulatory compliance and also streamline audits and mitigate risks?
Okay. Good, thank you. Very interesting discussion so far, especially the SME perspectives on how to adopt and implement ERP. Coming to the specific question, let me give a live example of what we do. There are export controls in place for different geographies and different classes of parts. It's an Indian government requirement, and there are regulations which say that if you want to do XYZ, you need to have a permission in place. For me to have that permission in place, typically it will be against a PO quantity. So if the PO says that I might order 1,000 of this, 2,000 of this over the next 1 year, 2 year, whatever period, I will only get an approval for so many of that and so many of this and so many of this for that customer at that address location only. If the customer by mistake gives me a PO saying deliver it to some other address, I cannot do. Because the address location is the approved location. If the customer says I've already bought 1,000, I want 2 more, I cannot do if my approval is for 1,000. It is the way it is, and it's the way it should be. Once again, it's too important and too critical for us to leave it to the potential of a human error due to fatigue or oversight or data entry. Nobody's going to count exactly 1,000 and say I'm done with 1,000. So if we could put into our ERP system a block on the day we win the package, we can say this particular part will only be shipped on a volume approval. With that volume approval, we could say that for this part number, right now I'm approved for 1,000 pieces to this address. Once a part is ready for shipping from finished goods or wherever the customer says, now you can ship it, if any of those fields don't match, ERP can block it.
Right.
ERP can block the generation of the invoice, and no invoice, no shipment. We could also add a further layer of protection. Start counting down. If my approval is 1,000, 10% of that is 100. Once I've reached 900, raise a flag saying, buddy, you're going to run out of capacity soon. Start the process to get the next approval now. So it's a second check. This spreads across multiple types of activities in terms of making sure we comply with an approval.
What's your answer? What's your take on how does ERP help automate regulatory compliance, streamline audits, and mitigate risks?
Agree with what Karthik was saying on the controls and validations, what one can put into the various value streams within the ERP to get these compliances and regulations done as per need and process. Also, we all know that aerospace and defense industry is highly mission critical and safety critical. So that makes it a most demanding and regulated sector. So I'll divide this into maybe 3 stages for compliance. One is at the design stage, another one at the manufacturing stage or the operation stage, what we call, and then finally the usage. So what matters most for an ERP is at the manufacturing stage or a little bit at the designing stage. So design is always complicated. There is which undergoes extensive design, retesting, testing, certification, things like that. So all these documentation which goes into the design, the retesting, and things like that has to be properly managed. That is one of those requirements. This falls under the AS 9100 compliance requirement also. So there the ERPs play an important role in storing these documents, retrieving those documents which are necessary as a part of compliance and certification process.
In the entire discussion, we talked about the potential and the possibilities that ERP has and the kind of things that have changed over the years in the past 2 to 3 decades. Ayappa, what are the kind of top trends that you're seeing shaping the future of ERP adoption in India's aerospace and the defense sector?
Okay, so the top trends is again there is a lot of focus on cloud offering, so that is one area. But the defense or aerospace industry is a little reluctant to go that way. So we are helping them by having local data centers to address their compliance issues. And then AI is definitely playing an important role. So there is a lot of areas in which AI can help ERP users, not only users, the entire ERP implementation process also. So we are building something on those lines where implementation timelines can be reduced with the help of AI tools, and also the entire learning process with respect to the ERP or the learning curve required for an implementation or a user to get trained can also be done in a very effective way through AI. So that is again helps user adoption or onboarding of the new user into the ERP and things like that. So these are some of those aspects wherein we are helping. Of course,
Karthik, your take, your brief take on this?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. I think we haven't done enough as our organization. We haven't done enough to preach or help other people see the benefits. Like I said earlier today, we have the benefit of having a very large ERP base within the group, and it's a centralized ERP implementation. So everybody shares everybody's improvements, and that's a huge benefit for us and a huge barrier for a young SME or for a smaller company to invest. So we haven't done enough to see how to break that. The portal push down is obviously one idea. There is no cost to the supplier. It's our portal. We host it. All they have to do is give an update on it. And we are not asking them to do anything. Of course, we share all our KPIs which relate to their supplies from our ERP. We share it to them. But it's not exactly a mindset changing activity. On the customer side, though, we have become sometimes a guinea pig. Like I mentioned, one of the pilots that we did long back with one of our customers. On the customer side, they see us as a good test example for some of the digitalization initiatives. more recently, we were the first in the country, possibly in that whole world of that customer I can't name, to do a digital maturity assessment. They said that we want this tool to go and see if this supplier or that supplier are on a scale of 1 to 10 very good in maturity of digitalization or just starters. And they used us as the test case. And they used us as a test case and they gave us a below average rating. So that's how customers are.
That's how the customers are. Yashwant, your brief remarks on the kind of trends.
We shouldn't just consider ERP as just an additional digital tool which we have to implement as a part and parcel of our process or operations. It has to be a subconscious effect or a perspective which is a necessity that has to be implemented, where people use it subconsciously and then it is made as a part and parcel of the operational process.
Uh, uh, Thanks, Yashwant, for wonderful and very comprehensive and articulate concluding remarks. And once again, thanks a lot for attending the session. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. It was really an exciting and then interactive
Bye.
session. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.